to Audien on the Cressman podcast.
With me today on the podcast, we've got Jeffery David. Jeffery is an ASCAP Pop Award-winning producer, songwriter. He's worked with Seal, Echosmith, Steve Aoki, Hunter Hayes, and many more. It's an honor to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, good to be here, man.
So we were just talking a little bit offline. You've got some really interesting philosophies, and one of the philosophies that underscores your business, Cranberry Management, is hustle with kindness because it never costs anything to be nice. And in the music industry, there's a lot of ego, a lot of bullying, even though we like to think of ourselves as an anti-bullying culture in the music industry. But you have forged out a great business in management and a great creative resume by doing things the way you want to do them and maintaining a culture of respect for everybody involved. Tell us a little bit about why that's so important to you.
Well, to give you some background, I really got my feet wet, so to speak, in the church world. So the first half of my life, I was what's called a worship leader arts director at some large churches. And in those environments, it just taught me like how to hire and fire, how to do what you say you're going to do, manage budgets. You were held accountable by people that you reported to. And I think a lot of us that come up in the music business never really had any sort of structure like that. So we're not used to like sort of creating great art or business plans, but also holding it a little bit lightly because other people have a say in it too. And so for me, it really came early that it was like, okay, if I want to ultimately get what I'm hoping to get, the result I'm hoping to get, I need to be a team player and I need to learn to do what I say and I'm going to do and be a man of my word. And I've done my best to be that. Nobody's perfect. We're all flawed, but I've really done my best to do that. So when I moved into management, mostly around launching Echosmith, I just really felt like the people that I respected the most and loved the most, the people that were the top of their game, one thing I noticed about them, they were all really nice. Like the best of the best in general, in my experience. They were just really nice. I remember early on producing this Christian record, and I used one of my heroes, a guy named John Patitucci, who was in Chick Corea. And this guy, in my opinion, is, in many people's opinion, is probably the best breathing, alive person playing the bass on planet Earth, the best human being on bass. And each time he would do a take, he was like, Jeffrey, is this okay? Do you like this? Is this all right? And it was just like, it was so musical and so beautiful. Yet he just was like, into customer service. Is this okay? Is this cool? It's like, of course it's great.
Type of guy who's just grounded in humility.
Yeah. So I came early on and I was like, whoever I come into contact with, I'm going to try to treat you good, and I also am faith-based. So it's just like, being a Christian, it's just like, we're supposed to be doing that anyway, so whether you're the janitor or you're the head of Live Nation, you matter. You're somebody's brother, sister, father, kid, whatever. And, your opinion matters. And I always carry kind of a pocket full of Starbucks gift cards. So when we show up at a venue or something, whether you're the janitor, like I said, or you're the club booker or whatever, we're going to love on you. And I find a great benefit to that. Not only does it make you feel better, but when you treat people kind and you send a thank you card or you're nice, you get their heart. So what you're about and you get them on board, you get their heart. And in return, you just have a bunch of people that are like, that guy did me right. That guy was nice. That family was cool. And I'll never forget, like when we did something with VH1 early on, we sent her a VH1 artist you ought to know or something. And we sent her a really fun pop-up New York-y obnoxious thank you card. And she called me. She goes, Jeffrey, I've never received a thank you card in 20 years. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? She's like, I just want you to know this meant so much, and I'm not throwing this card away. And it was just cool. It was not only cool to hear that, but just also to make her day. So we're kind of known for that on our team, and it's a lot of fun to do.
I think as well, when you vibrate on that frequency, so to speak, you attract a certain type of client. You attract a certain type of staff, and it just sort of perpetuates through your culture. So, this idea that you are impeccable with your word, that you treat everybody with respect, it almost has an exponential effect on who you end up interacting with on a day-to-day basis in your life.
Yeah, I would agree, but you get those people that test it and you're not perfect and nobody's perfect. And when someone sort of blows up or does something, you sort of try not to react. I'm not saying I never have, but you do your best not to and realize that, man, maybe the dream they're chasing ain't going so good right now.
And you do a bunch of things that are sort of outside the box. Like right now, you are speaking to us at your cabin in Coeur d'Alene, right? You're not one of these guys who needs to be in downtown New York, Nashville, or LA. Although I'm sure you're there a lot. You have been able to build a life around doing things the way you want to do it in the music industry, which I really respect and admire because I think too many people get caught up in the system and they become a cog in the wheel and they end up working towards the life they want at retirement rather than engaging in the life they'd rather be having right now.
Good point. In Pasadena, and we bought this place end of October, just this last year. So it hasn't even been a year. And just when California was shutting down, I was just like, let's get out of here, And me and my wife and my youngest son, Graham, we came up here and man, we were looking at places and I was just shocked. I said to myself, is it possible that maybe we're doing life a little bit wrong? Because the views and it's just so beautiful. It's on 10 acres. We hear the wind every day. It's overlooking 2 lakes. We see birds nonstop. We're growing food in the garden. It's just like, I'll eat something and my wife's like, everything we're eating right now is from the garden except this one thing, like an avocado or something. And I'm like, really? And I just never grew up ever growing anything. I didn't really even know. I didn't know how it works, but I'm saying in general, our family wasn't the type to think of things. And it's really fun to think about those things. Birds,
yeah, and you guys have what, like 10 acres up there?
Yes, 10 acres. And on my way to the studio, I'm always seeing rabbits in the garden and stuff. It's just a whole different thing. I love it.
It's a great way to also enjoy the juxtaposition of the hustle that we have in our business and the intensity sometimes, right? To engage in that and then get the opportunity to go out to the garden and pick literally what you're going to have for lunch. It probably brings some balance, much needed balance to your life, and there'd probably be a lot more people with a lot lower blood pressure overall in the music industry if more people adhere to that philosophy.
Yeah. Another good reminder too is everything in the music business sometimes feels, especially when something's hot and you have a hit or something, everything feels like such an emergency and so last minute and you can't dare say no to it. And then you start, looking at your life as a whole and it's just like, gosh, we get one go around at this thing. You can't say no to stuff. And you can not freak out that, oh my gosh, I didn't move the needle today. So I'm very results orientated and I really want to do stuff every day and move the needle for myself, for my clients. But really looking at the big picture of like, when we're at the very end, not to be too philosophical, but I do this all the time. At the very end, and I'm hopefully 90 years old, healthy, and it's just about my last breath. I wrote the song called "Last 3 Minutes," something in that way. So the last 3 minutes, I hope to be surrounded by my family, and I hope to be holding my wife's hand and looking at everybody saying, you know what, we chased a dream, we tried to bring some hope and happiness. I love you. Goodbye. And it's like, I'm not going to ask to see my bank account then or any awards or my stock portfolio none of that's going to matter. It's really going to be like, what did you do with your life? Did you enjoy it? Did you try to make a difference? And who'd you do it with? I did it with my family. What's better than that,
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the last 3 minutes is a great way to summarize the journey that we're all on, which is, at some point, your life is going to boil down to a last hour, last 30 minutes, last 3 minutes. How much of that time do you want to spend resentful, frustrated, angry? How much of the time that you did spend in those emotional states do you wish you could have back to add to those last 3 minutes? How much of that time that you spent in your life focusing on the things you didn't have? Would you be grateful to have that half hour back that you were pining and coveting the success that some other artist or some other manager or some other industry person had? Like, it's such an important thing to wrap your head around and realize, like, this present moment is so valuable because at some point it dissipates down to absolutely nothing. And one of many philosophies that I'm sure you and I are going to concur on, but I want to bounce over to the music industry itself a little bit, because another thing that I find interesting about you is you've worked with legacy artists like Seal and helped reinvigorate and perpetuate their career with cranberry music. But you've also worked with a lot of development artists. And I would say, and maybe I'm wrong on this, so maybe you'll correct me. Looking at you from the outside looking in, you seem very, very passionate about artist development. That seems to be something that you're all about. Correct?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And there's a couple reasons I love it so much. Is number one, when you're working with new artists, they are so grateful. All the firsts are like so exciting for them and for you. So it's just like, oh my gosh, I got a new artist named Sydney Bowen I really like. She's really cool. Brand new artist. I got her first paid gig. It was $200. It was this wine company called Cellars. They do a thing called Jam Cellars. I called her. I go, I had a gig for you. It pays $200. She's like, what? It takes me 2 weeks to make two or whatever it said. She said, she was on cloud nine, sent me 10 thank you texts. And it's just like, it is so fun to go get those things and opportunities for artists that are just so appreciative. And it's kind of addicting.
Yeah, without a doubt. And there's a lot of heavy lifting though too. Like, as exciting as it is, there's a lot of education that has to be done on the front end with development artists. There's a lot of expectation management that has to be done that balances off the gratitude sometimes, right? Where it's like, yeah, it's going to be a while till we perform on the Grammys. Hang in there, could happen, but here are the things we need to do first. And then the creative, which is really where I would imagine you blossom as a manager, because you have those skills as a producer and as a songwriter that many people who manage artists, including myself, don't come from that background. So that's got to be really rewarding for you too.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have the multiple hats, and a lot of people can't understand it. And it doesn't matter to me if they understand it or not. It just have to be who you are. But it is really interesting. Like, an artist I had do a video yesterday. I said to her, this is all stuff that's sort of risky that you have to balance in a positive way. I always believe in half glass full approach to literally everything, even the worst situations. I'm never going to be like, life sucks and that's just the way it is, even if it does suck. And for that, I just don't do it. It's not, my job is not to bring you to the realities of the darkness of life. My thing is like, there's a tunnel that we have to go through, but see, there's a light down there. And like, I'm trusting God to get us through this thing. But let's really run. The old adage: if you're going through hell, don't stop. Right.
Right. Keep on running. Yeah. And so, most of the adversity in this business, and the highs and the lows are all temporary. That's just a constant, right? So anyway, we'll let you get back to what you were saying.
Where were you at again?
I'm sorry. You were just talking a little bit about the the highs and the lows, and and reminding people that the adversity that they deal with is something that's quite temporary, and they've got to keep pushing on through it, and how important and critical that is to developing acts.
Yeah, the cool part about having the other hats, I was saying that too, is that I was going to say, an artist that was doing a video yesterday. Are we breaking up a little bit? It seems like it's getting a little bit sloggy.
A little bit here and there, yeah.
Because I'm just sitting here.
It's fine on my end. It pixelated a little bit on yours, but now you're back and it sounds fine.
Okay, cool. But one of the things that I have a big picture of from an artist perspective, it is how weird it's sort of. It really is glitchy right now. Should we restart? Am I okay?
You look clear as a bell to me on my end.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my ears, it was like your thing, what you said a minute ago, is all repeating. It's the weirdest thing. So let's see if it fixes now. But back and maybe get rid of that part if you can.
Yeah.
But I was saying, I had an artist yesterday doing a music video. So because I think this way, I was like, hey, that really cool look you do where you raise your eyebrows. I really like it, but don't do it the whole time. And even bands that I'll work with that are new, it's just like, maybe no one told him to like not make that guitar face. Like there's a certain big gigantic artist that had to relearn how to sing because he made this face. It looked like he was literally having a baby or something, or throwing up or something. Just those sort of big picture things that even, as an artist, as a manager, of like, okay, like be careful of the guitar face, or you're making that one for, make sure today that you enjoy the moment, or I can hear with any singer on earth, I can literally tell where the voice is. I can tell if it's up here, I can tell if it's in their throat, I can tell it right at the front of their mouth, just from being a producer. And what I try to do is I try not to mix all the hats. That's not always easy, but I literally say with my artists, if I happen to be in the studio, and I don't produce all the people that I manage, a lot of them I do. And so I won't mix the hats. I will purposely say, hey, with my producer hat on, like, I think you're sort of phoning it in today. Let's take an hour break. Let's go get something to eat. Or let's take a walk. Look at that lake. Let's just go get inspired. I don't want you to get too in your head about this take. I want you to love this song because you did a minute ago, and I feel like you're thinking about it's too mathematical right now. So things like that, those are helpful to artists to be able to say, hey, before a big performance, you might have the butterflies right now. Breathe in through your nose, out your mouth. Let's do it. This moment's awesome. Like those sort of things that like I could just sort of get in that world of all the different hats that have served me well. But it's important to sort of name the hats at time, especially with ones you happen to be related to.
I can imagine you're a good coach, and that's an important part of being a good manager. But creatively speaking, you probably have a really great ear for hits. And I would imagine that part of the process for you, especially in the development game, is challenging artists to bring the best of themselves to the table creatively, whether it's songwriting or like you just talked about in the studio. So does your background, and it must give, it's obvious question, but it gives you a major advantage when it comes to pushing the best out of people, when it comes to, hey, this song is great, but if we do this, this, and this, we could change it the additional 1.5% that it's going to take to make it a monumental hit or an exceptional hit versus a song that's just going to get airplay.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, no one exactly knows. We all think we know, but it's just for me when there's this feeling of, oh my gosh, this is so special. And I felt that second that we wrote Cool Kids. I felt that the second we wrote Bryce. I felt that the second we wrote This All Over My Head. I felt that sometimes you can get tricked though, because for instance, like working with someone like Seal, who's so iconic, his voice is so good. And you find this with certain artists that you can be tricked into every song thinking it's a smash, because his voice is so freaking great, and it's Seal, and you grew up loving this artist, and he's in the booth, and you're producing it. And you're like, hey, why don't you try this or that? Or you sing something back, and you're like, that is really cool, though. That is Seal. That is cool. Or I got to work with the English Beat. That was the first album I ever bought in my whole life as like a 7th grader, 6th grader, and I got to be in the studio, and we started working, and he was all cool. First album I ever bought. That was a big deal for me. Save it for later. Your legs, these songs, all these alty kind of things. I was in San Diego growing up. I loved that stuff. And I think just coming up everything sort of with a kid-like perspective, I can't help it. I have a real sense of wonder about everything and how stuff works. Not mechanically, but just how people look at stuff. And, we moved to Coeur d'Alene. I didn't mean to, but anybody I talked to and they lived here, and I would be like, yeah, I love it here. What's your view? What do you see? Assuming that everyone was looking at the lake like we were. And some people were like, oh, I don't see anything. I see a big wall. And my wife had to start kicking me under the table. It's like, not everybody sees the lake or the view. It's just funny because in my mind of wonder, it's like, why would you live here if you couldn't live somewhere, if you could, even if it was a terrible house, to see this stuff, to wake up inspired, So.
Well, I mean, it's a much more optimistic way to go through life, right? To see the best in everything and to retain grounding in the present moment and stay connected to the present. And in this business, it's just too easy to get away from that. And it's too easy to get away from that just in regular life. I mean, we are living in a culture right now where we're overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed by the news. We're overwhelmed by obviously everything that's going on with COVID. We're overwhelmed with right now while we're taping this podcast with the extraction efforts in Afghanistan. Like it's a never ending cavalcade of anxiety. And I really like what you said about retaining your curiosity. I really believe that there's something to that if you can stay in the space of curiosity, it helps you mitigate judgment, right? It's way harder to judge something if you're curious about it. And it also keeps feelings of fear and anxiety somewhat at bay because you're retaining curiosity and you're, okay, where's this going to go? What's going to happen here? It's a really important tool that I think a lot of people could benefit from using. And I use it myself to go, rather than getting worried and assuming the worst or jumping to the absolute worst conclusion in my head, what if I just stay curious? What if I just stay calm? And through that curiosity, I start to learn something or discover something or appreciate something, even if it's all about myself in the beginning, right? And anyway, I think that's a good life lesson to put out there. And I think it's important for artists. It's like, hey, just retain curiosity. Like, go into a songwriting session, less about judging the other person and more about what could you possibly get out of this if you just stayed in a state of interest. And anyway, it's something to certainly chew on, I think, mentally.
Yeah. I love it. I love what you're saying.
You have crushed it as well in the sync world. You've worked 350 syncs for everything from The Voice to Glee to American Idol, The Biggest Loser. Tell us a little bit about how you have been so successful in penetrating that world that everybody wants to be a part of, especially if they're a songwriter or an artist, but rarely ever get the opportunity to obtain.
Well, I think the secret to my success, which nothing has come easy, this has been hard. Every single bit of it has been hard, is I am relentless. There's no other way to put it. I am relentless about the songs that I write, the bands that I manage, the records I produce. And I literally 5, 6, 7 days a week, I'm not joking, still to this day, will send out 50 to 150 emails all over planet Earth. It's a pure numbers game. And I'm not like,
and so when you're sending those emails out, they're not just purely like cold emails. These are either relationships you've developed over the years, or you believe you have the perfect song for XYZ campaign. Like, how are you going about that process?
Well, I some are cold. Some have always been cold. I have no fear whatsoever. I mean, I learned this thing from my dad. It's like, what's the worst that can happen if you ask for something? They could say no. But you know what? What if they say yes? What if they say yes? I've lived my entire life that way. And I can tell you, I've gotten a lot of yeses simply by asking. You have one life to live. Who cares? You don't be a jerk about it. You know what I mean? But if you're like, hey man, would you mind? Whatever. But the way I do the emails is I've done it the same way. So you got to realize that I changed careers at 40. Okay. I was a worship leader. I was deep in this church world of these giant churches. One church now is something like 10 or 15,000 people. So I was over 300 people at one church, I quit at 40 with 4 kids, 3 of them in private school, a mortgage. Like, there was no, like, I'm going to live in an apartment, make beats. There was none of that. It was like, you have to win. You have to provide for your family. My wife did not have a day gig at the time. And I basically was relentless in my passion, in my enthusiasm for myself, for my songs, working with, relentless. And I would send emails simply like this. Hey, Mike, this is Jeffery David. I'm a songwriter and producer in LA. I hope you're amazing. Man, life is good. I hope you're well. Dude, congrats on so-and-so and so-and-so. I did some homework, or whoever I was emailing. I have a folder. Here's my SoundCloud link of songs I believe are so special. When you have a minute, man, I would love for you to listen to these. And I'd love to treat for coffee anytime. God bless you. Have a rad day, Jeffrey. There's not one freaking thing that's offensive about that. There isn't a pretentiousness about it. There's not some kind of weird ego trip. I complimented them. I did some homework. I knew who I was emailing. I did not send an attachment. Don't be an idiot and send an attachment. I sent a link. And I did that And I still do that every day of the freaking week. And so my mind is always on alert. Also, I'm self-employed. It's like if I'm not creative and finding ways to make money and find places where my songs I'm a part of and the artists I work with can thrive, then I don't eat. So I'm going to be creative. So wherever I am, my mind is going. It's just the way I am. If I
There's
see a
some
rad,
pressure for you to succeed built right into the system that you've created for yourself.
hello, I have 4 kids you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Quitting a career at 40. And so if I didn't make 10 grand a month, I'm screwed.
Now, what was
Back
it that
then.
made you leave the church and quit your career and migrate over to this side of the business?
Well,
What was it?
I was producing a lot of indie records, and I love the church. I still go to church. I love God. I'm grateful for all of that. None of this changed. I just don't want to work there, and I don't want to hire and fire people. I don't want to watch the videos and see what we did good or didn't do good. There was a lot of pressure that we created. We really felt, we have 108 hours in a week. Let's make these 4 or 5 hours, which each is an hour service. Let's make these amazing and impactful. So we would program and produce those things out in ways that 99% of people have never even imagined. We were writing drama sketches, writing a song every single week on The Message. My wife did stage design. She built, like, with a construction crew, like a 70-foot tree with branches that went into the audience on, like, planting roots and growing where you're planted kind of thing. And we would, every week the music was completely so special and unique. I mean, I had ska bands and like DJs that scratched. I had gospel choirs. I had orchestras. I mean, I could literally do anything I could dream of. And I did, but it just became really high pressure. And if one thing went wrong, I felt like my whole week was ruined. But the good part is that world, again, taught me so much of bringing excellence and really managing your time and making the time for the big show or whatever you want to call it, the Super Bowl or whatever your thing is that we're all leads to. 168 hours led to those 4 or 5 hours, right? Making those amazing. Make sure that you don't screw up in those. You can have all the problems you want in the other hours, but make those great. So that helps me in management and producing and all that, and casting vision is the most important with artists of like, okay, like I know this week was crazy, but in 30 minutes you get to share your story on the Tonight Show. I'm telling you, this is so cool. I love you. You're gonna kill it. We're gonna go eat like pigs after this cheesecake. We're gonna find the best cheesecake in the freaking city. Let's go. High five. And so when you approach again with wonder, like, wait a minute, we're in the moment. And no matter what happened, let's just enjoy this. It brings everybody, it helps to make us grounded. I do for myself too. You know what I mean? It grounds us all.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And so I've always believed that your ability to succeed in life, but especially the music industry, is directly proportionate to your ability to positively navigate rejection and failure. So back to the syncs, when you're starting that process and sending those emails out, a lot of them being cold emails, what was your breakthrough rate? Like, was it 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20? Like, I think people need to really understand and grasp that part of being a hard worker is hearing no and not being fazed by it.
Yeah, you have to be your own champion. You just have to be. I have this thing when I write a song, I love it most of the time. I love it. And I will champion. I have stories I'll tell you later where I will push a song for literally years on end. I have so many examples of that. But my first yes was MTV, and MTV started just like sinking the crap out of all kinds of stuff. And this girl, Carrie Hughes, and Carrie, if you're watching, I love you. She used this first song in the Hills. It was called "I Hate the Way I Feel." It's a sad little melancholy song. It was like, and I hate the way I feel. Give me something true. And they used in the scene that like was cool. And it was just like, dang, I love my song. But I really love my song when it's like attached to these two people that like are having a legitimate breakup. And this girl feels like crap. And my song helped tell her story. And people started to search for that song like crazy. And who is this? Who wrote this? Who da da da? Anyway, so the numbers sort of, I would say if I was sending out 100 emails, and they were various emails, it wasn't all stink, that I would say it was 10% of some kind of positive reaction. And here's the key for me is when I get a yes, I massage and love on that person so hard. Like, you're going to get all kinds of fun stuff from me. I'm going to chat you out, probably going to send you cookies or thank you card. I'm going to make you famous. That's another key to my philosophy is the partners that help you, make them look good. Be grateful. Do not be a taker, be a giver. And I have a million examples of why that's worked. And I wish more managers would pay freaking attention to that, and artists too. But just get into the relationship, whatever it is, and what can you bring? How can I make you look good? Like, I appreciate you doing this podcast. And when you broadcast this, I'll post this all over the place too. I think what you're doing is cool.
I love
It's
it,
like, let's
man.
be a giver,
I think that's a great philosophy. And I think that again, we're in an industry that is so somewhat focused on selfish self-promotion, right? Like, you almost have to have this disproportionate level of self-esteem in order to be an artist, because otherwise you can't deal with the rejection and failure. And sometimes a symptom of being that focused and or having that much self-belief is that you become very selfish about your agenda, and you become very driven only by what you want to achieve rather than what you can achieve by other people, while also achieving all of the goals and checking all the boxes yourself. So I think it's really important for people to hear that, understand it, and appreciate that life is a value proposition. And the more you give, the more you get. And sure, there's going to be people who take advantage of you at times. And but it's not naive to go, hey, listen, I'm going to give you 51% all of the time, and I don't care. I'm happy with that. There's nothing wrong with approaching life. And those people who do that, including yourself, they just seem to have a more optimistic outlook. They just seem happier. Everybody looking over their shoulder, complaining about how they get screwed every 5 minutes. Like, those people are just so unhappy.
Yeah, victims in general, any sort of victim mentality is just going to make you unhappy in life. And it's just like, we're all victims of something, you know what I mean? And but what are you going to do about it? How are you going to wake up today, and what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, and did that experience victimize you and saddle you with a life full of heartbreak, or did that experience, even if it was righteous victimization, did it make you stronger in some way? Did it make you appreciate or learn something about yourself or your resilience that will carry you forward? That's the part of the message that I think is getting lost today, especially as it pertains to social issues and things happening in society. It's like, okay, fair enough, you were taken advantage of or something went wrong, but like you just said, now what? Right? What are you going to take from that? What are you going to glean from that? What about that is going to make you a stronger, better, more motivated version of yourself? Back to the music, because I could talk philosophy with you all day. I love this. Let's talk about Echosmith, because this is a band that for many people who aren't in the industry, it just kind of came out of nowhere and had these huge smash hits with Cool Kids and Bright. Did you start working with them right from inception, or what's the origin story?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but we're all related. Those are my kids. Do you know that, right? So
yeah, I just wasn't sure if I knew you worked with them and I knew they were family, but I wasn't sure if you had other industry people involved originally.
Yeah, we've had all kinds of different people on the bus, and even the bus today is changing. But early on, when I was in the church world and they were growing up, they were around me making all these records and art. I was just convinced early on that this was the kind of family that I wanted. I wanted a musical family, and I wanted the kind of family that, like, went out to eat all the time, had fun, was real loving and affectionate, but music was everywhere. And so early on, like, man, early, we're talking 1 years old and 2 years old, 3 years old. I was like introducing him to like vintage amps and drums and what a click is in the studio and lyrics and records. And I would have them have records on, like, listen to that string part on that Bittersweet Symphony, listen to that. Like, Daddy, that's sick. It's so sick. Now, if you took that part out, that song would not.
Fostering that Fostering
wouldn't be
that
the same.
artistic prowess in them.
Yes. And all about parts. And like, if that wasn't in there, that song would not be as epic as it is. And raising them on really cool stuff, all the 80s stuff, all, U2 stuff, Coldplay, Radiohead, classical stuff, lots of worship music. And it was just real apparent early on that, they were so special. It was just, they were special, and the environment was special. They had the who's who of session musicians and artists over at the house almost every day. And, home, I always have. And I loved the interruption of family. I was never bothered. I loved it. So if I was in, early on, I got to work with one of the girls from En Vogue, when they were as hot as fire, right? Never gonna get it. And I got to work with a woman named Cindy. She was at the church, and she was over, and we were writing a song, and my kids are coming. I'm like, get over here. Cindy's here. And they're running in there, giving her hugs. And she's showing them this melody that we came up, and they're like, that's sick. And I'm like, Cindy, my daughter was like 5 or something. I don't even know, however old she was. And she used to love singing the Shaka Khan, "Ain't Nobody Loves Me Bad." I go, show Cindy this. Cindy. And Cindy's like, oh, that's sick. So this sort of thing of like, if you're going to work with me, you're going to get the whole family kind of thing. And 99% of people just loved it, especially, a lot of these indie artists that would fly in to work with me who maybe missed their family, or maybe they had a bad family experience, and they would come in and there's like, gosh, you guys made me feel part of your gang from second one. So the band grew up in this environment. And to fast forward, somebody at our church, her daughter died of cancer. And she's like, Jeffrey, and I had this whole other side gig that I started called the Lesson House, just for fun, to help music at my kids' school, because they said it sucked. And long story short on that part is I basically formed a company over a weekend where kids could take group drums, acting, voice, and I came to their school, at a bunch of teachers that I hired, and it exploded. And it was in like 26 schools. So it was like almost 1,000 kids taking these group lessons. It was killer. It was just a fun idea. Anyway, and so this lady said, hey, can you put a band together for this memorial for my daughter? And so my kids slowly became the stars of this thing called the Lesson House. All these hundreds of people, my kids were the best. Of course they were the best. They should be. They were in this cool environment. So I was never like, they're the best. I'm like, always like, you should be the best. You have the raddest environment I would have died to have. And so I go, you guys want to play together and do this? They're like, sure. And by this time, they weren't playing as a group at all. We knew Sydney would be an artist, and we thought the boys would be session musicians because they were so advanced and cool, musically, they were just so special. And they said, sure. So they started learning these covers, some Rihanna covers, a couple originals that I wrote with them. And they went and did this walk run thing. And I checked in, I was in there coaching them and stuff like that. But I kind of want to let them do their thing as they learn these covers. I would show up every 3-4 hours, did whatever. But hands off, just learn these covers, because I didn't think much about it. And then they did this show. We got them ready for the show. They did this show, and it was just like someone slapped me across the face to wake me up out of a dream. I freaked. And the way they reacted to what someone was playing, same way as like a young Coldplay, the same thing as like a U2, but they were really young. And so I saw fans, people that never saw it, were really getting into it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I see it. That moment on, we're like, let's go after this. And the kids were like, let's do it. So we wrote this one song called iPod, and it was right when the iPod came out. You got to realize they were really young then. This is like Sydney's 9, Graham's 6, Noah's 10, Jamie's 12 or something. And it's this one chorus. I heard it on the radio, so I put it on my iPod. Down, 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 down. It's really catchy and fun. And so we wrote this song, and I sent it out. I didn't know anybody. Okay, I didn't really know anybody. I knew the people at my church. I knew, Cindy was in En Vogue. But I didn't know anyone. But I subscribed to this service called it was called Record Express. You could pay $99 a month, and they would give you the phone number and the email to everybody in the music business. So, dude, I sent this thing iPod out to everyone. Same kind of approach. Hey, my name is Jeffrey. I hope you're rad. There's this really cool new song, a band I'm developing. I never go, my kids. By the way, I never introduced it that way ever. People have to find out. A lot of people are like, are you embarrassed of being their father? No, I love being their father. I just don't ever start that way. Anyway, so everyone started coming over. Dude, people were flying over. The producers of Hannah Montana came out. Everyone's like, you need a TV show, a record deal, Anyway, so all the deals that were offered, they were really young. but they had these old souls. They loved REM and U2 and Coldplay. They did not write songs about the mall, even though iPod was still sort of, catchy, whatever, but they still had a bunch of other songs that were about the world and stuff. And so all the deals were just wrong. And we did not want them to be a Disney band. We did not want to go that route because I was convinced, this is also looking from the 10,000 foot thing that you need to do as a manager, is I did not want that band to be my band, to be part of anything where someone who wants to be seen as older, and it happens to everybody, guys and girls, they turn 13, they want you to see them as older, they're getting mature, they're going through adolescence, everything's changing. They at one point will throw everything away that reminds you or anybody of them being younger. They will throw posters, music, clothes, and you do not want to be part of that throwaway pile. So I'm like, we're not signing these deals. So we went through 3 iterations of this, and then the final one was they ended up getting signed to Warner, an old friend who used to play at my church, a guy named Mike Elizondo, got hired there. And I had this funny feeling. I told my wife, I think he got hired. Sounds crazy, but I think he got hired to sign Echosmith. And he did sign Echosmith, and so did Rob Cavallo. And it just changed our life, the whole thing. And it was a really neat, it was a long story, I know, but the environment of the band being in a family that was loving and happy and artistic, that let you be who you were, but also had structure. And it was important that you treated each other kind. And we created this atmosphere as a family that we wanted. And just side note, as a parent, just when you start having kids, just realize you don't have to be like, oh, I wonder how this is going to go. You can create an atmosphere. You can sort of like make a plan. You can take this thing really serious to create the kind of family that you choose and do whatever they do. But when you can control it, go for it. You can create the kind of family you want. So it's just a parental word, but a parental bit of advice. So
yeah, and still allow them to, flourish in terms of their interests and their passions and just, foster their ability to explore those things. Now, you had this amazing vision from day one, and I want to commend you on that, because a lot of people would have taken a Disney deal out of the gate. I think a lot of parents are just crossing their fingers that their kids are going to be successful, and they're willing to sort of take whatever deal gets thrown at them. Was there a temptation at any point for you to relinquish the role as manager because you were the father, or because you maybe thought, hey, listen, maybe this other manager could pull some strings and get them things that I can't get them? Did you ever have that internal dialogue with yourself?
I have it all the time. And we're going through a change literally right now where we're mixing up seats on the bus. But I will tell you that nine times out of 10, the biggest people in the world that you can think of, 9 times out of 10, probably won't be the one lifting up that hand and calling out, dialing out, as I like to call it, in sales. They'll answer the phone. That's easy to answer the phone, right? But the biggest of the big, a lot of times with a developing act, 99% of the time, they just can't, because of time or whatever reason. They're not gonna deliver what you're hoping they're gonna deliver.
The ROI isn't there for them financially to utilize all their connections, leverage all their power for a development artist. I think you're right. I think you need somebody who really believes in it, is passionate, is willing to put in the work, put in the time, and then grow it to a place where maybe it warrants a partnership with someone who can, come in on that higher level. It's almost like, to use the analogy of a restaurant, you might have a great family restaurant, but it doesn't always mean it's ready for franchising out of the gate. You have to get it to a certain point before you might want to open up other restaurants of its type around cities in your country and around the world. Like, it's a process, and it takes a lot of output for what is trickling in at that point, which isn't much. So it's very respectable of you to see that, bear witness to it, and not be so quick to relinquish that to somebody else. And obviously you've done a great job.
Well, thank you. I will just say that there's nothing in the world. This is a note to artists. There's nothing in the world like somebody who is 100% in, I mean, really in, someone who is relentless in their pursuit on your behalf, because you just can't do it alone. And I would take a brand new manager, breathe, and even fund. I mean, there's stuff that I of course I'm the father, right? There's stuff that I do and did that nobody in the world would do. I refinanced my house to chase the dream. I mean, I put massive money into this thing. There's things that most people won't do, but if you can find someone that will live and breathe this thing on your behalf, man, don't take that for granted, because that is rare, and it's tempting to go run after some gigantic manager that like has a staff and a structure and a building. But I'm telling you, nothing replaces the relentless pursuit and passion on your behalf. Nothing replaces it. Nothing can compare to it. I've had this conversation with myself a million times. We've had partners before. I'll shout her out. Kimberly Noller was a co-manager that we brought on for a time, and Kimberly was wonderful. She came from the Warner system, and Kimberly was very analytical. Kimberly was very structured, and that was a nice combination for those years with my entrepreneurial approach to management, which is I'm open to literally everything. I'm not one of those. It's like, well, this isn't exactly in the box that we planned. Like, screw it. I'm like, screw it. Like I've we're pitching a show based on Cool Kids. You know, we're involved in cryptocurrency with BitClout. I have all kinds of stuff that like is left of center. We had somebody offer us a horror movie, centered around Echosmith, and we don't really like horror movies. But I'm like, we're going to the meeting. Let's go. I am open to everything. And
Back to your original philosophy of approaching life with an underlying feeling of curiosity, right?
yes, and if you believe, if I at my core, I believe that God's in control and that things happen for a reason. Why would I not go take a meeting that someone reaches out, or I reach out? Most of the meetings are me reaching out, by the way, with something left of center, because it just might go. And I have real respect for Steve Aoki and his manager, Matt. What's up, guys, if you see this? They are very similar. And Steve Aoki has his hand in a million things: trading cards, cryptocurrency, NFTs, shows, franchises. He has a pizza company. His family owns Benihana. I mean, I love that stuff. And that feels just as creative as writing a song. So back to the original thing of what you asked about the eternal dialogue of a manager being related. You know, in our instance, this journey has really benefited from that, because I've done things that no manager in the world will do, on top of, being a really strong songwriter and advocate for the group to chase stuff 7 days a week. And it's helped us get really, really far. And it's been really fun. And I love these kids so much. And to see them, I'll just tell you the boxes that it checks. As a songwriter, holy cow, you're having hits. You just want someone to care, but then to have people buy a lot of this stuff, holy cow, checklist number one. What? As a producer, I've produced a lot of this stuff. Family thrive in doing something that they love. They're doing it together. You're seeing people, and we're writing songs that matter. We're not writing songs about like having sex in the backseat of a car. We're writing songs about like, maybe you don't fit in. It's like, you're cool just the way you are. That song is meant to say, man, be you. There's only one you. Nobody has this DNA on this thumb. No one has your thumbprint. There's only one you. Be that. And when you see kids all over planet Earth, and adults, the fan base from 18 to 50 that's at these shows, of every language, singing this all over the world, these songs, another checklist. And they're saying, oh my gosh, this song you guys wrote, everyone cries. I felt like killing myself. There's so much hope in this song. I didn't do it because, I'm just telling you, this thing checks so many boxes that I would bet the farm again and again. And as we move on to this next chapter, and we're shuffling seats on the bus.
So when you say shuffling seats on the bus, are you talking about structure within the band itself? Are you talking more about partners who are in play, management label, that sort of thing?
Yeah, management label. We finished our deal at 88 Warner. We're talking to new labels now. There's a new manager that's going to come on and get involved. It's all good. I'm also starting a label. I'm going to focus a lot more on that. I can get into that in a little bit here. I'm very excited about that. And I think it's important to always look at the bus, as long as it's moving, whatever seat you're on, you're still on the bus. Who cares what seat you're in? We're all headed somewhere, and we're all going somewhere cool.
Certainly looks that way. So, paradoxically enough, you talk about how important it is to have maybe a new manager or a manager who's impassioned and connected to the artist. You could say the same thing about a label. Sometimes it's great to have an indie label because indie labels will dig in and work hard because they're always coming from this place of having something to prove. But you guys did sign with Warner out of the gate. Did you just feel like they had a vision that aligned with yours?
1,000%. It was Mike Elizondo and Rob Cavallo. It was just like, it was the dream team. Rob had produced 1 million ginormous records and signed and developed acts. Mike had a huge track record. We came from the same place. He used to play bass for me at a church, 20 years ago. And it was the perfect scenario. And Rob was leading the company from such a musical place. He's such a record man. It was so special. He's a mentor of mine now, a really close friend. At the time, he wasn't. I only admired him from afar. And it was the perfect scenario. And, they made Echosmith a serious priority. And we said yes to everything, too. So a combination of writing great songs, thank God. Mike produced a great record. Having Rob kick butt at the label, us saying yes to 99.9 of every single thing that was asked of us, making them look good, like going back to that old adage, being great partners, loving on the label nonstop. Another thing of saying thank you, like for instance, we did a big coach deal, and I'm always looking at how to expand a relationship. So we did this. Paradigm got us this gig for South by Southwest, or no, it was Coachella, sorry. And we did this thing for Coach. And I'm always showing up at these things. I'm like, I want to make this thing way bigger than this is. So we did this small thing. I find out who's there, the designer's there, the head of creative there, Stuart. We're loving on them. Thank you so much for having Echosmith. And man, I can just tell you, Sydney in the band is obsessed about Coach. And if there's more that we can do, dude, here's my cell. There's more. And I'm telling you, there's more we can do. And I followed up with an email, thank you, a thank you card too. There's more we can do. Let me know. Sydney was on cloud 9. Thank you so much. Had her take a picture with something they gave her. She posted it. She shouted them out. That's important too, making them look good. And we mean it. We want them to look good. And then he called me up. He's like, dude, let's make her a Coach girl. And then we negotiated. She got 25 of these gift cards, really high-end gift cards worth a lot of money. We use those things to love on people like crazy. So as the label was killing for us, I'm always sending thank yous. I would send a group email all the emergency alert from Jeffrey, the manager of Echosmith, and I would send it to the CEO, to everybody in the company, or everybody that's working for us. Emergency alert in the body of the thing. Like, oh no. So they open it. I'm like, and in giant letters, thank you. What you're doing is changing our lives. I love you guys for this. And they would show like a picture of my son Graham at Target with a basket full of Bionicles or something like that. Like he's on cloud 9, And so I remember saying to the radio department, back to the Coach thing, the radio was killing for us. I sent them a text, we have all their texts. Hey, Shelly, before you go to work, I have to tell you something personal. I need you to stop by the house. And so you got to realize most radio people don't make that much money. They do well, but they're blowing up artists who are like literally lives are being changed, going from zero to multimillionaires. Some of these people, you go work with like, Green Day. It was nothing all of a sudden, so no one remembers to say thank you. So this is what we do all the time. Shelly, I need you to stop by work. I have to tell you something personal. She thinks something's wrong. So I go, please stop tomorrow. It's really important. So she shows up. She opens the door and I hand her a brand new Coach high-end purse, and it's yellow and fashionable. She loves the color yellow. What you're doing is literally changing our life. I just want to spoil you a little bit. Inside that purse is a gift certificate to whatever restaurants you like to go. From our family to yours, we love you. Thank you so much. She started crying. Like, I'm just telling you that people forget to say thank you. So like all these things are changing. And so we will use these moments to just love on people because we are grateful. It's that sense of wonder. It's like, crap, we would do so much of this stuff for free, but like you get paid pretty good for this stuff. And it's like our lives are changing and like we chase this dream and no care now. And you are part of this. And thanks for being on the journey. So we loved Warner. We loved our time at Warner. they went through lots of staff changes, tons and tons of staff changes, and that was hard. But our years at Warner, I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for every person that touched our projects, and I have nothing but good stuff to say.
That is so inspiring to hear, man. What a great outlook. And tell me a little bit about the label you're launching and what's next for you as we sort of wrap up here, because this has blown by, which I had a feeling it would, just getting a chance to interact with you the little bit that we have. But tell us what's next for you, what some of the goals are moving forward and objectives in your career.
Well, I'm really excited. So about 7-8 weeks ago, I was like, man, a lot of the label system, it's hard to deal with the staff changes. It feels broken. I know it's not, but it's hard to deal with, okay, on the management side with the constant staff changes of people that were passionate are now gone. And so I was like, I think I want to start my own label. I've never started my own label. Really, I have a little one over at The Orchard, but I haven't really properly done something on a big scale. And so I was talking to Seal and I was talking about cryptocurrency, and I'm excited about this thing called BitClout, which is tokenized social media, which could be a whole other conversation, but very excited about it. And I go, I'm going to start a label. And he's like, I want to do the label with you. And at first I was like, no. And he's like, but I'll open my whole world and I want to do this. I want to mentor. I want to be part of this. And I'm like, well, duh, why would I not do this? He's like, I want my buddy Patrick to do it with us. You know, he's a marketing executive over at Google and he's overseeing 33 staff, smart, well-spoken, organized human being. And I'm like, let's do it. So we announced it, I think 6 weeks ago, saying it's coming. We're just getting this going. But the idea of this company is called Sunrise. I'll be the CEO and my two partners will be, again, Seal and Patrick. The bottom line, ultimate thing will be we are going to form this label and run this label in a way that I don't know that anybody ever has. So we're going to basically put artists on salary. I don't know anybody that's ever done that. Maybe someone has, but I don't know. And give them a 401k, a reasonable salary, not something where it's so much they're balling now, they don't want to work, but something that gets their mind focused on creating art because we need you all in. But if we can cover some of your basic bills, we want to do that, right? So get you focused. Take that stuff out of your way. So here's a salary and a 401k. We're only going to focus on singles, DJ features, remixes, and alt versions of songs. So typically when you sign a record deal, a record has 10 to 12 songs on it. It takes a year to write it, and then you promote it for a year and a half, sometimes 2 years, right? With my model.
And by then, a lot of times it's old news and it's lost momentum.
Right. So our model is we are going to release a song every 4 weeks with some kind of video content. 1 week after that, we are going to release an acoustic version. 3-4 weeks after that, we are going to release a remix. So imagine, instead of dropping your whole album where the first 3 songs stream well and the last 7 no one has attention span for, die. We're going to release it every single month. So imagine, instead of 10 or 12 songs that we're betting on as a label, now we have 36 versions. We have like basically 30 songs. And besides that, then we get DJ features for our artists. I'm really good at getting that stuff. So with Echosmith, we've done probably 10, I think. And so imagine getting 1 or 2 of those. Imagine also releasing like a Christmas song or something. So, but within a 1 year period of time, we signed term deals, not record deals. In 1 year period of time, maybe we're dealing with 40 something songs, maybe 43 songs. Wow, I can recoup my investment as a label on 43 songs. My odds are way better. Again, just like my emails, I would send out 100 emails a day, 10% return. You know what I mean? It's just quantity. And then if we sign a 2-year
Well, the other
deal,
thing is you start to propagate that artist profile with all of the streaming services because you will increase their algorithmic presence, right? By releasing alternate versions, DJ remixes, like it's the way it's working now, and why so many labels are still stuck on the system that they had in the 1990s of just releasing a record and pushing it for 18 months or 12 months and then releasing another one. It's like this is the wave of the future, man. What you're doing is right on track.
I think so. And then we're going to focus on NFTs, which are super hot. So the singles and all that stuff, then the NFTs, and then every artist that we sign is going to co-own a podcast. So it's going to be called Sunrise Presents Artist to Artist. So imagine your first podcast. And let's say it's Seal and one of his good friends. Let's say it's Seal and Echosmith for fun, right? And Seal and Echosmith are talking music, life, love, maybe cryptocurrency, whatever they want. But inside of that podcast, They will do one of their hits together acoustically. So imagine Kiss from a Rose with Echosmith and Seal and re-release it. Imagine Cool Kids with Echosmith and Seal and we release it. Holy cow. And then Seal goes off and does all his podcasts, which would be very successful. I love Seal. He's wonderful to listen to. Amazing stories and amazing wisdom. Echosmith, if we were to sign them, they go off and do all their podcasts. So we end up with 5, 10, 15 artists doing their podcasts. These things are exploding. We're releasing these special acoustic versions in the studio that never existed. All of a sudden, those are blowing up. And all of a sudden, we have some ginormous business that someday maybe we just sell it all to Spotify with just the podcast. And then fourthly, we're excited about social media, which is called BitClout, which is tokenized, decentralized social media that we have a lot of hopes for. And we'll see what happens with it. But bottom line is artists and creators are their own company and people can buy coins in them, like stock, so to speak. And every time they post, it helps their bottom line. Every time we post on Instagram or Facebook, it helps their bottom line, right? And I love those services. But what if there was no like person that owned it? What if you could never be canceled or banned or someone, whatever? Like, what if that could never happen?
Censored, or have your algorithms, throttled, like happens sometimes on YouTube or on Facebook or on Instagram or even TikTok. That is brilliant. The other thing is that when fans are invested, they're also incentivized to care and share on a whole other level. When they're buying into a project.
Yeah, we have a lot of hope for that. And then in turn, you can also give fans things on that platform that maybe they get to hear the record first, or they get to get special access to NFT and all that. So the last thing I'll say about the label, which is really the cornerstone of the whole thing, is mentorship. So what we want to do is we want to pair each person that we sign with a person that's been doing this for a long time successfully. So imagine you're a brand new artist and you could be mentored by Seal. You could call him once a week and be like, dude, I'm really nervous about this, or this is my first TV show. Any pointers? Or, all this kind of stuff. Like, we could replicate that model. So I'm going to mentor some. What if we signed someone like Echosmith? They can mentor. What if Seal could get on the phone, or we ask his other buddies or our other friends? What if Elton John could mentor? What if Coldplay could mentor? And all of a sudden you pair these people with people that have a long career that's just not being done. And I just feel so much hope for this thing. And we're just now talking to investors. It's just beginning. And we are really hopeful for what this can bring. And we want to be a place that artists want to stay forever.
Brilliant. Man, this is a great place to wrap this up. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Thanks for reaching out. Like, I'm even a bigger fan by the end of this podcast of what you've been able to accomplish, what you've been able to do, and the future that you're going to usher in, not only for your own company, but potentially for other companies that are going to be inspired by what you guys are doing. So well done, man.
Thank you, my friend. God bless you.
God bless you.